back. Another Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM. If those online can see, we have what we call a full house today. We have some amazing voices. We got our regular co host, our brother to brother co host, Ivor. Then we have Aunt Vanita. Then we got Joy on the line as well. So we are going to close out this month of Why Do Side Pieces Keep Winning? We are all married at various stages of our marriage. I think Joy and I are second up. So let's rehash over everything. So the first one was Mars versus Venus on Earth, and this is where we talked about the gender wars and how we are being co-opted and taking on an argument by many of our just we're taking on an argument that's not ours. Let's just go there. And so during that time, I introduced a couple archetypes that I personally have recognized as it relate to women and how those women related in my life. And then number two was the cost of divorce, where we had Ann Vaughn on, and Ann was telling us about how much it costs to actually get divorced, and also this thing called the gray divorce, where you're in the relationship but you're not in the relationship, and we know that that has increased because of the way that wealth is created and impact wealth and impact the kids and impact all these things, to where these households are losing finances, not because they're unable to be sustained, is because we have this great divorce and we're slowly drifting apart while staying together solely for the kids or whatever have you. Then the kids come and see me in my counseling office, and we do some talking and whatnot. And then last week, both Ivor and I talked about why men pay prostitutes to leave. And we, for the most part, tackled this idea of a lack of skills, going all the way back to the book that I referenced, which was called The King, the Warrior, the Magician, the Lover. And I can't remember. It's the four archetypes of men, of masculine men. And then up underneath that, of the masculine men, we talked about the bipolar aspect of both that comes from the child and a lot of the shadow work. So anyone out there who have ever focused or looked at Carl Jung, we looked at the shadow work of Carl Jung and the archetypes and all that other good stuff. Next month, actually, we're going to start with parenting, and we're going to look up what does, we're going to start with on during Wellness Wednesday, we're going to start with the mother archetype and what that looks like as it relates to feminine. So we're going to do that, but we are going to clear this out. So all of this has power, and because we are, let's see, how can I say this? And I say this quite often. We are spiritual beings who have the opportunity to have human experiences. So I was talking to Joy one time, and she knows one of my favorite movies is Wonderful Life. And I don't know if you remember the movie Wonderful Life. Clarence was the angel, and the angel was really excited and happy about going down to earth. And any movie that I've ever seen about angels or spirits, they get really excited about being here on earth. And so that's why I say we are spiritual beings who have the opportunity to have the human experience. And having those opportunities of human experience, we have to look at the personal responsibility or the skills that we have. So when I'm talking about personal responsibilities and I'm looking at this idea of relationships, this idea of relationships for me has five parts. We have boundaries, limits, expectations, standards, and accountability. Boundaries are what I allow near me. Limits are what I can give this week. Expectations have a lot to do of what we agree on in a relationship, and standards are the floor. And that accountability literally means to be questioned. And I know in certain areas of the world today, we're once again fighting about the ability to question or to check in. So why does all this matter? All of this matter because if the number one way to create wealth is through relationships or through marriage or whatever have you. If we are not creating wealth and sustaining that wealth, and we're paying for that wealth during divorce, or our 401k or our IRAs are breaking up, then that means that falls down to our kids. That means our kids, for the most part, are not getting the wealth that they deserve. And so in our community, in Black and brown community, we're already starting off below. And our divorce rates or our lack of connected rates are extremely high. And then we go from our children, we go into our community. And so if you know if you know about the Black community, we're constantly losing money over and over and over. So if we keep playing this game of who needs who and what and who we are, so to speak, um, we're going to continue to lose. And if this is not our fight, then everything that we're doing needs to be assessed and everything needs to be, addressed. So before I go any further and look at some of the stats that are related to this, I am going to bring in all of the people we have together. So first, like we're gonna start with ladies first. I got to start with my wife first. So let's start with my wife first. Joy, you on?
Yes,
All right. So that's Joy, and as you know, Joy, we do a what do we do? Wellness Wednesday. She
we do
jumps
a
on.
monthly Wellness Wednesday, the first Wednesday of the month.
Okay. And then along with that, we have her Aunt Vanita. What's up, Auntie?
Hey.
Aunt Benita is someone who I know I look up to and I know Joy look up to, but I look up to her because I really enjoy her femininity and I enjoy what she has gone through, all the way through the yoga. You're a yoga enthusiast. You follow everything, spiritual. So
Yes.
you are in the right place. And then, as usual, we got my main man, Ivory, here.
That is me.
What's
I
up?
am he,
What's up?
and we are
He
And
is
here.
me.
right. And Ivor keeps me going and keeps me online. So I appreciate that. All right. So everyone here is married. So Joy and I've been married almost 20 years. We've been knowing each other for over 20. Why are you laughing?
Because I just no. You know
Okay.
what? We're not going to do that one.
Okay.
Nope.
Nope. And then so I'm Benita. How long have you been married?
I have been married for 33 years.
33 years. Okay.
Yes.
That's a good number. That's
That
the
is.
Jesus number. That's what I call it.
Okay.
So you've been married for
33.
33
Yes.
and you this is your first marriage.
Yes.
Okay.
It
She didn't
is.
do a starter.
Right.
She didn't need a starter.
This is your
Starter one.
first marriage,
Starter one.
and so this is what I hope. So the four archetypes that I had, one was the legacy builder. So
Okay.
what I've recognized is that throughout my life I have a connection and these connections come in and out of my life, blah blah. If anybody want to listen, go all the way back to listen to episode 1.
Mhm.
And so I've recognized that there are certain archetypes or certain categories. What I'm learning, they're not necessarily archetypes. They're just categories that I've recognized about these people. So um, about these women, one is the legacy builder. Second is the soulmate friend. Third one is the wise mother, and the fourth one is the whore, but not in the sense of the biblical version.
Uh-huh.
The actual word, the sexual energy that goes along with women,
Mhm.
that fits all that. So when I think about all of this and I think about what we're doing, we're necessarily trying to pack. What I'm trying to do in this month is package all of this together so that we
Mhm.
can have a conversation about how we repair our community, our Black and Brown community. So 33 years of marriage,
Yeah.
and to be perfectly candid, if I think about it, you've always been a wise mother to me. Although I can remember when we first met, and I've always, connected with you and appreciated, your veracity of reading and all that other good stuff.
Yeah.
Ivor, what you got? It looked like you was about to say something.
13 years, 9 months.
What we talking about?
Marriage.
How long has been married? You didn't ask
How long
him.
have you right?
No.
How long have you been
Yeah,
married?
13 years.
13 years, 9 months. How many hours?
I don't know. We ain't going that far. I just remember Cabo.
Cabo.
Destination wedding.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So we have a vast array of knowledge here, and we deal with a lot here on this show. So what I want to do before we jump into that, I would like to commend all of the parents that have allowed their kids to go back to school, and
They have demanded that your kids go get out the house.
right. And
This
so I'm
morning.
gonna send this out. I'm gonna send this mix out to all the parents, and what I want from you is to just ensure that you get up and move a little bit. So let's just take a little bit of time, little 5 minutes. Let's decompress while moving that energy around and dancing a bit. I love to dance, so anytime that I can dance, I'm good. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring it up. I'm going to dedicate this to all of the individuals that are listening and who choose to partake in the show weekly. All right. I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM. This is our fourth installment of Why Do Side Pieces Keep Winning? So we've already had our introduction. So let's just jump into it. So we have this thing called Great Divorce, and Great Divorce is breaking up homes. And so what we're finding is the standard of living drops by men 45%, by women 21%. And we're cutting our wealth in half. And so if we're cutting our wealth in half, that we go to school, we pay all these bills, we cross the stage, we get married. So the average wedding is now roughly about $30,000 for one day. We do all these things. We go get a house. We have these kids. We do all of this stuff. And then we get into a situation where we don't necessarily have the skills in order for us to move forward. And so when we don't have skills, the community loses for the most part. So if we're going to talk about personal responsibility, which is something that has come up frequently, I want to just dig deep into this idea of personal responsibility. And in all relationships, no matter what, it has five. It literally has five elements: boundaries, limits, expectations, standards, and accountability. And that accountability part is where that personal responsibility part is. So I'm gonna start with the wise mother. I'm gonna start with Benita. What are your thoughts on this idea of just simply, one, taking personal responsibility within relationships, and possibly talk about the cascading effect of how it affects our children, our families, and our community?
So you talked about personal responsibility. As a younger woman and early wife, I didn't know this, but now I feel like it is not anybody else's responsibility to make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
So when my husband, who will periodically ask me, are you happily married? And before I would have said yes or no.
Yeah.
But now, 33 years later,
Mm-hmm.
my answer is don't ask me that question.
Okay.
Because it is not your responsibility to make me happy, because the marriage is outside. That's an external thing.
Correct.
And so for me, I've got to figure out, if I don't like the marriage situation that I'm currently in,
Mhm.
then there's some things that I need to do.
Right.
In addition to finding my own personal happiness, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether that is, okay, I'm going to stay in this marriage and we're going to figure out A, B, and C,
Right.
or if I'm going to jet.
Yeah, because this idea, Ira, of do you want the ladies to go first, or you want?
Nah, either way, I'm good. Either way.
So this idea of personal responsibility. I've never actually, and I'm gonna ask Joy this because I've never actually asked Joy how she feels about this. But when I look at marriage, and it took me a while to get here, and I look at this idea of marriage, I have a commitment to myself first. I have a commitment to our marital agreement second, and then I have a commitment to her third. And so that's how I looked at it. And I never actually asked her. So this is going to be interesting. I never actually asked her what her thoughts are or how she feels about that. Joy, could you give me your thoughts on that?
About how you've broken down the way that you honor marriage.
Yes, let's go with that.
I mean, initially when you said it took me off guard because, the wife is third. But I do understand that if you as a person aren't in the best place, it makes it difficult for you to honor anything to yourself or anybody else. So you first self has to be, kind of taken into account. And then secondly, the actual marriage agreement, you agree to be married, period, whether it's to stay married or whatever have you. I can see that being a decision that, again, lies with you because you're not going to always like me. But that doesn't mean that if you've made up in your mind that regardless of whether the days that I like her or I don't like her, this is my decision, then it almost takes the stress off of me to say that I can cause you unhappiness or I can cause you to leave. You leaving is a personal choice.
Right.
And
Right.
so if those two things are, pretty solid, then again, it makes it easier for you to relate to me. And then I also know where you're coming from. You're coming from a place of wholeness already. You're coming from a place of agreement because you've already decided that this is what you want. And so I should think that you're not coming at me sideways because you've already put the first two in order.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Ivor, what
I,
you got?
I was a little worried at first. So if there's one thing that I would, if I could talk to married or folks that are getting married,
Yeah.
man, don't be spending $30,000 on a wedding
On a day.
on a day. The crazy thing was in high school we did that experiment, whatever,
Mhm.
and even back then it was crazy dollars.
Okay.
And so because you can start your marriage in a position of strength
Mhm.
when you don't waste that money in that way, and it's a waste.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call it what it is. It's a waste of money to do that.
Yeah.
There are much better ways to start your marriage together, your lives together, than to waste money on a day. I don't need to give you different ideas, but please,
Yeah.
please, folks, do that less.
The idea of the wedding. So you got married 33 years ago.
Yes.
And the price, so I got married 20 years ago. You got married 13 years ago. So just like anything, what's weird is I view it like a car.
Hmm.
A wedding can either, depending on the type of car you buy,
Hmm.
can either appreciate or depreciate,
Hmm.
but the cost is still going to be there. So when we talk about this idea of boundaries, we're gonna start with Ivor. What are some limits to your boundaries? Like, what is a no not gonna happen within your marriage, possibly, or how you view relationships? That that accountability piece. You go to your spouse or whomever you're in a relationship with and say, okay, we can't do this because I'm not going to take this in this way.
I think my boundaries have a lot to do with our kids, and just the way that I was raised,
Hmm.
which is a little bit different from how my wife was raised. And the thing for me is when I make a statement, when I say whatever that thing is,
Yeah.
trust and believe that that thing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we struggle in that regard, because my wife likes to make these grand proclamations, and
Hmm.
I tend to not,
Hmm.
because I know that when I do say something, it's going to happen the way I say it,
Hmm.
because that's how I learn.
Yeah.
And I'll tell my kids all the time, like, when your pop took my car keys and said they were going to be gone for 90 days, they were gone for
For
90
90 days.
days,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that's what it is. So, um, to me, the boundaries, whatever they are, should need to be consistent.
Okay. So let's pop over to these standards. So back in the day, Vanita, this idea of standards. So now, even to date someone, what you're seeing online or even with some of these apps, one woman, and I know it was just something to get clicks, possibly, one woman stated that, hey, this individual has to put $1,000 down payment in order to date me.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. $1,000 down
That's
payment. So
crazy work.
so, in my opinion, that's both an expectation in some
Hmm.
instances, as well as a standard, because the male has to, or whomever dating them, have to have a fund available of $1,000
Yeah.
in order to
A
leave in
retainer.
some type of account that doesn't appreciate or don't have interest bearing in order to date this person. So, when you look at the standards that we're seeing with our young people, what is your thoughts?
Wow. That was, I've never even heard such a thing.
Yeah.
And to
You got to
have,
come up to the mic. Come
uh,
on now. There you go.
okay, here I am.
Yes.
Never heard such a thing. Back in the day, a job,
Yeah.
not even thinking about this disposable cash that he
Hmm.
can put somewhere. It was just a job. But I also think for me, it was a lot of my standards were based on what my mother taught me.
Okay.
And her stand, what she taught me was based on what she was taught.
Okay.
And so, I am someone who, I was born in the early 60s. And
Hmm.
so that looks different
Yeah.
for me than it does today. So I can't even say,
Hmm.
you know, again, that is just mind blowing for me that
Yeah.
that would be a standard for someone.
I think, and we'll get into, expectations versus standards, but I think what's really weird
Hmm.
is this idea that one person in a relationship is the prize.
Yeah.
The relationship is actually the prize,
Hmm.
not each individual in the relationship that's the prize.
Yeah. Hmm.
So this idea that someone needs to pay in order to date someone is
Hmm.
really weird to me.
Hmm.
Even, even it's still weird to me, because I've always thought, and I was always taught, that the relationship is the prize
Yeah.
rather than each individual. So Joy, having to be married to me, did you have anything that you wanted to add based off of this idea of who we are and what we offer to a relationship?
I mean, I think it's interesting, looking at this, how you were saying 33 years, 20 years, um, 13, I think, or Ira said.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a marriage a decade. We're all in a
Hmm.
different decade. And so going back to what, Benita said, making sure that the person had a job, that was the standard. And then, added to my generation was make sure they have a job and that they're intelligent and can hold a conversation, string a sentence together,
Yeah.
and just be a that part.
Right.
Hmm.
And so just how every generation is a little bit more added based upon what we've experienced. And so even like now when I talk to Katie, who's only 13, or talking to EJ, who's 16, I'll say educated, be able to stream together, a sentence, and have some insight into their feelings, can use their feeling words, can tell you how they're feeling, that emotional intelligence piece. And so it's just interesting how with this young lady it went straight to money or a retainer for her affection.
Yeah, I just think it's weird
It's
personally.
delusion. It's
Yeah.
delusion
It
to
it
me.
is delusion. It's setting yourself up on a pedestal.
For sure.
Is so do This idea of dating someone or marrying someone back in the day was totally different than it was today, because you would have a dowry, but we still have a sense to where the woman's family still pays for the event or the wedding. Now, I would love to have some individuals that
Hmm.
have connected to this young lady to be like, all right, so that means that my $1,000 is going towards the wedding as a down payment, because if we're gonna be old fashioned about it, that means the woman's parents is paying for everything.
Yes.
Well, I
And
think
so
she said dating though. Like she didn't
yeah,
even say anything, did she, about like beyond that? Like this is just to have a good time.
Yeah.
this is just to get the ability to have time with me, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Hmm.
That's how I got it. So
Yeah.
this idea of expectations versus standards. I think it's a bit tossed up,
Hmm.
or it's a bit off. What is who wants to have a definition on this? What you got on, Benita?
Well, I was just going to go back to this idea of the $1,000 to have a good time.
Mhm.
For her, it may also be to know that you can provide for me.
Okay.
And so it's a down payment,
Yeah.
but it's more, but again, going back to, I like the way Joyce said how we added on to each decade.
Yeah.
It's to know that you got a job and you make enough money that you got this $1,000 as disposable,
Okay.
and then that you can continue to do this so that you are intelligent enough or whatever that you have a job where this is the money that is coming in.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's again, it on the surface it
Hmm.
looks like what she's saying is, yeah, you gon' do you have this so we can have a good time,
Yeah.
whatever. I know that
Hmm.
you can do this, but also it lets me know it's that perhaps it's that foundation setting for if this is possible
Hmm.
marriage material.
Yeah.
So I
What
don't know.
what you got, Ivor, on this?
I wish I might put $1,000 anywhere.
But no, for real, I mean, I get that part, but for
No,
real, you are a individual who has also kids.
right.
So we all have kids. So we have three. Ivor, you have two. You have one. I'm Benita.
Yeah.
Three.
You got. Oh,
I
that's
got
right. Ooh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have three.
Yeah.
And so,
We need to got
but you
two.
all say it again.
Benita has two.
That's right. That's true. Two boys. Why
I
am I
do
forgetting all
have
these
two
babies?
It's
boys.
okay. It's all right. We forgive you.
Ivor, let me get to the question. Before I mess up again, setting the standard or the expectation for, and talking to your children on how to date. So we're already married, and I don't know whether or not I'm gonna go out there on the dating scene. I hope not. I don't think so. But we're pretty much married for the most part. So Ivor, you have three children. Two of them are girls,
Too.
one is a boy.
Yes.
When you're approaching each gender with this idea of expectations and standards, and let me just be clear, expectations are what we agreed upon, right? Those are agreed upon things within our relationship that we're willing to put up with, or I'm willing to put up with. Standards are the floor. This is the
Yes.
bottom.
Exactly.
At bare minimum, you need to have A, B, and C. When you're educating either one of your genders on this idea of dating and being together, what is something that you add to this standard versus expectation conversation in parenting?
I think for especially for my daughters, the focus has to be inward
Hmm.
to set their own standard on how they behave and to allow someone to meet that standard of existence of interaction. If you treat yourself in loving kindness with loving and kindness, then someone else has to match that energy,
Hmm.
as the kids say today.
Right. Match that energy.
Meet that energy, be at
Yeah.
that level, and then their expectations. It's kind of the icing on the cake. I kind of look at it a little bit different than um, how you
Hmm.
phrased it, but I think it's like the icing. It's the additional
Yeah.
how you'll interact with somebody.
Okay. Joy, this you have. I'm gonna put on my host and my counseling hat. So I'm not your husband in this moment. With that said, this idea of expectations and standards, as a counselor, I often, because I do more individual counseling than I do couples counseling, I often ask them, what is the relationship you have with yourself dictates any relationship that you're going to have with anyone outside of you. So, you as a parent, how are you instilling a better relationship with the children to ensure that their relationship with themselves, like Ivor said, is sound before they start to get into a relationship? Although one of, the oldest is engaged, but we still, there's still two other ones. So can you add to this conversation?
I mean, I definitely agree with what Ira's saying, and just that just being able to have that insight into what they like, what they enjoy, and trying to find people that complement them and not someone who has something that they feel like they're lacking
Hmm.
is, I
So,
think, very important. And I also wanted to go back to what you were saying about the $1,000 with the young lady. And I kind of wanted to play devil's advocate and just
mhm,
say, throughout history, women have always wanted security in relationships.
mhm,
And what if that's more so her need, for security, safety,
mhm,
stability, and resources, and looking at it from that standpoint,
mhm.
which could be from a point of lack, but also, women kind of go into relationships looking for security a lot of times.
I like that the women gave the just the pose. Did you notice that?
Put the money in the escrow account.
But no, for real, did you notice? Because this idea of security within relationships have always been tied to money. It's never been
Yes.
tied to heart. It's never been tied to the agreement. It's always been tied to money. And this idea that you not necessarily have to pay me up front, but if we go and do this, there has to be some security. So let's talk about this idea of security. For men, security is vastly different. I want respect, and I would like agreement in some levels, and that's my security. You showing that consistently is our security. So from your end, Ivor, as a male, what is your idea of security?
I think a lot of times a gentleman will want to not have their heart broken, and I think men can oftentimes pretend like things don't affect
That
us.
sucks. Yeah,
But I think
it's
that's
an
the
act.
security. That's the security piece for a guy.
Yeah.
If I make $100,000 a year or whatever the case may be, security for me is my own security. I'm good, but I just don't want to be I don't want to be played. I don't want to be a simp. I don't want to get my
Yeah.
heart broken. and the security is with in my feelings. Is my heart safe with you?
I think that's the other part, because it comes to a level to where the finances are what they are.
Yeah.
you know I've seen, or I've heard, whether read or as clients, I've seen, like, yeah, take my money, but stop all this nonsense that you're doing. Stop making my life a turmoil because you're angry. And so I think men don't have the choice to be angry in the same way women are
Right.
angry. And so we do only what we can in order to build or regain that security, which is going back and just talking mad trash in ways that are not helpful. So let me make it a little bit more succinct. If I'm looking at it from a security standpoint, both genders have a different idea of
Mhm.
security. Money is security in what way for women? Vanita.
So it is so interesting that you said that because I never would have thought about the security being related to the heart. Because the way I'm thinking about it, the way I thought about it then, and probably still the way I think about it now, the again the finances. If I can be okay and you break my heart, I will fix that. I will be okay. I will My heart will be broken for a little bit, but I will get it together and I will eventually be okay. But don't take my money, because then how do I want the ability that if you leave, I can still stand on my own 2 feet.
Okay.
That I can do this, I can do that, and the other stuff I'll fix.
Okay. Joy, what you got?
I mean, I agree. I think just when you look at it, economics, men, make more than women. We already kind of struggle, in so many different facets with being the lesser gender, socioeconomically, that I think it's, the security. In terms of him and the heart, the first thing when he said heart, I thought of respect. I didn't think
Mm.
security when he said it. But I mean, I see how, and I appreciate how he pulled it together to say, he doesn't want his heart broken. But, Ivor is also someone who's very in touch with his feelings. So I wonder if, that's not easy for most men to kind of put into words.
I don't think it is. So if I look
Mm-hmm.
at it from this idea of finances, we're
Mm-hmm.
taught all the way through, especially in America, that money is the key to everything.
Yeah.
And when we put money, or the idea of money,
Mm-hmm.
into our personhood,
Mm-hmm.
we're fine giving that away. We're fine,
Mm-hmm.
providing that. But in taking my money and the way that you are taking, that's where we get to the court systems. That's where we get to child support. It is wrecking me also. So not only are you no longer with me,
Mm-hmm.
and we no longer have respect, we no longer have that connection, but you're also taking that thing that is that for because that's just how it is. You've taken a part of my identity also, and that identity, you're using it for whatever, when it's supposed to be for child support. And that's a whole nother, that's
Yeah.
what we talked about, during the cost of divorce,
Mm-hmm.
a better way to do child support, or a better way to do this spousal support. So when I think about security, and I'm, speaking to my clients or working with someone, I'm thinking about it as personal security. You're Did you walk away and have your mind, your body, and your
Mm-hmm.
spirit? And if so, yeah, I get it. But you can make another penny, but you can't make another second.
Mm-hmm.
And in making another second, you can't spend too much time talking about someone who don't want to be with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Give the money away. Vanita, I'm Vanita. What did you have?
Even as you are saying that, I get a little bit, my heart is going.
Hmm.
Because again, for me, that that security of being able to live. And even though I know that the money is an external thing, and it is not the thing that makes me happy. I get all of that. But viscerally, I get a little I have one of my biggest fears is that I find out that my husband is living this totally different life, and when I find out I ain't got nothing else, that there is no money, there's no home, there's no nothing, and it is an irrational fear. I understand that it is
It's
irrational,
not
but I
irrational. It
still
may be
feel
irrational
it.
for your,
Uh-huh.
but that's not irrational. We have individuals that we know who has a whole nother family over,
Hmm.
and we do know the second family is the happiest. That is a proven fact. Seriously, if you watch Fences,
Wow.
if you watch any, like if you look at any of this, because the primary family gets the tired individual. The secondary family
Mm,
gets to be all of, the male gets to put the type of family that
yeah.
they want together. So it's
Hmm.
always the second family that get the most.
But
Ivor, what you got?
so I would hope for, and I wish for more dads of ex husbands and fathers would do better by their children.
Yeah.
To me, that's like, because for me, for my oldest daughter, child support has never been a thing
Yeah.
because it's my daughter,
Hmm.
and I don't look at it as her mother taking anything from me.
Yeah.
I look at it as a way for me to provide for my daughter. And I
Okay.
think it's about perspective and not necessarily like, I don't care what she does. That's not my business anymore.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't care.
Yeah.
But I care about my daughter. I love my
Yeah.
child. So
And that's the thing, because it's called
Hmm.
child support. The automatic thought is, because I care for my child, is going to go towards it. Let's skip over that for a minute and go back to this idea of not only personal responsibility, but what is it that we're due in a relationship? In all honest, what I believe that we're due in a relationship, like what is it that we are due? I am due based on our first agreement. Meaning,
Okay.
if we sit down and say this is our relationship,
Hmm.
just like any other contract, one, let's make sure that we're meeting those expectations
Yeah.
of that agreement. Secondly, there are times when you come back and be like, you know what? I like you, I like this, but this got to go.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna start with Joy. Or Joy, do you want to go first, or do I? You want Ivor? When you look at this idea of renegotiating, quote unquote,
Hmm.
the agreement, there's a personal responsibility on retraining and re-educating the person on those things. What's your thoughts on that?
I'll go first, Ivor. I think that is where the rubber meets the road in relationships, because it's so easy to marry someone and take a picture and think that that's the way they're always going to be, and not realize that, as we change and grow and mature, things that we may have said 20 years ago, they may not stand anymore. Vanita said that how I was 20 years ago is not how I am today. Those thoughts are no longer there. And how do you respectfully come back to your partner and say with, conviction that, hey, I know I said this, but I think I want to change my thought on that, and worry about, is it going to be a deal breaker for them? Have they captured me in this picture, and are they unwilling, to see me differently as well?
So, Ivor, before we jump in, remember you are training people in how to be with you when you're in a
Hmm.
relationship. When you choose to change, you have to re-educate them. So, Ivor, go ahead, give us your insight. Then we're gonna
I
take a
was
quick
thinking,
break.
so standard for me would be honesty,
Hmm.
and then the expectation is like intimacy or like
Hmm.
a higher level of happiness and fun and what
Hmm.
have you. But yeah, honesty is the standard for me.
Okay. So on the other side, we're gonna come back in and we're gonna talk a little bit more about this. And we got fit. I don't know if you knew that 15 this hour then went kind of quick. So we're gonna jump out and we're gonna come back on the other side and we're gonna jump back into this idea of personal responsibility. This is Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back. Unapologetic on WOVU. So let's reintroduce. This is the fourth installment of Why Do Side Pieces Keep Winning? This is the personal responsibility within relationship. We have Vanita Burke. She has been married for 33 years. We got Ivor B. He's been married for 13. We got Joy, who is my wife, and we've been married almost 20 years. So this idea of personal responsibility and accountability. So when you look at the definition of accountability, accountability simply means to be questioned. And what I'm noticing is, depending on how you were raised, the idea of being questioned can be problematic.
Hmm.
And how you are questioned is being problematic. So, Vanita, we got about 20 minutes. We got about 20 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we round this circle. But when you think about this idea of being questioned, it
Mhm.
comes with a lot of negative connotation. What's your thoughts?
One of the things that one of the negative connotations is criticism. If I question, and all I'm really doing is asking a question.
I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Right. But it's, you know, you don't, so I'm a bad husband. So not what I said. That is not what I said.
We're not gonna play that game.
Right. But then I also think about if I am questioned, and I'd like to think
Hmm.
that I don't take it
Hmm.
as a criticism, but it's possible that I do.
Because it's weird, because the accountability part, which is the major part of accepting responsibility, because what happens is, if within that agreement the boundaries are crossed, the limits are met, the
Mhm.
expectations are not continuing, and the standard we below the floor, the only thing that's holding us together is accountability. That's
Yeah.
me coming to you, asking you, yo, what happened?
Right.
Ivor, what you got?
Observation, not a criticism. That's a phrase that gets uttered in our house quite frequently, and I think it does, it helps, right? Like when and you can ask a question,
Yeah.
and I think the communication that my wife and I have
Uh-huh.
is to make sure that the other understands I saw A,
Hmm.
and I just need clarification.
Yeah.
And that's the question. That's, it's an observation. It's not a criticism.
It, yeah, but the concept of judgment, criticism,
Hmm.
critiquing, all that is in questioning. Joy, what you got? Because we didn't have. I got my husband hat back on, so
I
we didn't
mean,
have
because
some,
this is a
conversations
live
about
one.
this.
This is a live one at the house. You know, I don't like to be criticized, questioned, judged, any of that. Because everything I say is Trump tight. It makes sense, and let's
Hmm.
run with it.
Yeah, I mean, so if y'all don't know, she been for real.
Oh, I
For
know.
real.
Joy
Yeah.
has been for real.
Yeah.
Because she's right though.
She want the old adage of happy. We didn't talk about happy wife, happy life. I
Yeah.
think is one of the downfalls of the actual marriage aspect,
For sure.
because what's happening, we're no longer in the 1920s, 1940s,
Hmm.
and this idea of keeping someone happy. First of all,
Hmm.
Joy can't make me happy. I
Right.
have to agree what she's doing is
Hmm.
contributing to my happiness.
Hmm.
So this idea of happy life, happy wife doesn't really work. And so what's funny is if you are socialized in that way,
Yep.
you meet someone or a male who is like, no, we in this together. You
Hmm.
unhappy, you go to sleep and get up and we're gonna talk about this so that we can
Hmm.
figure out what's going on. You run into a problem in your relationship. Ivor, what you got?
Happy spouse,
Happy
happy house.
happy spouse, happy house.
And
I
that's
like
funny
that.
too, because and so I used to, when I first got married, I heard that adage, happy wife. But
Yeah.
as the years progressed, I'm like, nah, dog, we got to make sure that this is a little bit more equitable in this
That's the key,
joint.
equitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When you look at this equitability, so
Hmm.
equal is one thing.
Hmm.
Being equitable means we're all on the same level.
We're all getting what we need.
We are getting what we need. We're on the
Hmm.
same level.
Yeah.
And so this idea of meeting needs and this personal responsibility, I'm gonna go around the table. I'm gonna start with Ivor. When you look at this idea of needs meeting, and I'm gonna throw this caveat in, okay? In my opinion, in my clinical opinion, all insecurities are unmet emotional needs. And so what we do is we grow up and we closet, about middle school, our insecurities, and then we go and get married, and then we build our life on our insecurities, so no
Hmm.
one actually sees this. And so getting your needs met is something that is very important. How do you, Ivor, just to go with you, how do you know that you're getting an actual need met and not an insecure need met in your marriage?
Being able to communicate what the need is
Mhm.
is the key, I think, and understanding what I need in a specific moment. Again, very, very important to understand where I am and what I need.
Right.
And that's how you really know, is if you're, and And honestly, you just got to not be, you have to not be a child as a,
Yeah.
a 45, 55,
Yeah.
65-year-old man.
Yeah.
Understand what's going on.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of damage that is in our community that we don't address. Even this
Oh.
idea of maleness, while reading the book, this idea of warrior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where men are being going downhill
Mm-hmm.
because there's no more warriors in the way that you would believe there's warriors. And so we're going to go out and kill someone or conquer women
Mm-hmm.
to bleed into the lover. So with you having two male children
Mm-hmm.
and you are in a marriage of 33 years, which means you have only one other young lady, shout out to little Chloe, who is your granddaughter.
Yeah.
So within your family system, you got more men than women.
Yes.
And you're looking at meeting these needs and also being a model. You're actually in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
as you're the glue. How do you get your needs met while understanding that my husband may be speaking from an insecure need?
So I read something in a book a couple books ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it talked about. I'm going to do a really bad job of quoting
Mm-hmm.
this, but it was talking about almost not expecting him
Mm-hmm.
to meet my needs.
Got you.
And I really don't, because I don't know that he can.
Okay.
And I know for sure that I can't meet all of his.
Okay.
Which is problematic for us at times.
Yeah.
But that's why I do yoga. Because I really don't expect him to meet my needs because I don't, and not saying that I think he's a bad husband, but in many ways, I don't think he has the capacity to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I have got to figure out a way to meet my own needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I may be putting a lot on him
Mm-hmm.
when he got his own stuff
Yeah.
that he is
Yeah.
dealing with.
Because he's a whole person.
Yes.
And remember, out of this whole thing of you three, you are the third anyway. You're the
Yeah.
first in your world and the
Mhm.
third in his world.
Yes.
And so in doing that, there's an idea of who we are. So what about being a glue before we bounce over to Joy? Okay.
Yeah. Bounce to joy.
All right, Joy. So this idea of needs meeting, and like I said, if we're going to look at personal responsibility, it is my job to first articulate my needs to you. While articulating my needs to you, there's an agreement that, a renegotiation of an expectation. When you are just, processing your own needs and communicating your own needs to your husband, aka me, what are some of the difficulties you have in differentiating an actual need or an insecure need, to your husband?
I think with myself, I realize that it's an insecurity when there's emotion behind my reaction, or just like an emotional charge to it.
Mhm.
That I know, like, you know what, he can't do this. This is something that's on me to do. And if I'm able, like Ira said, to communicate it without emotion in a clear way, then I feel like that's more of me asking him something that he, will likely be able to do.
Yeah. I think for me, just to speak from that level, when I go to Joy and what I've learned over time now is I need to process before I go. Because of who I am, what I do, I'm very communicative, which is a bit different in other male households because of what I do and the skills that I have, and I use them.
Mhm.
Right, I use my skills in everywhere I go. Now, with that said, before approaching Joy, I know that I need to check myself first
Yeah.
and figure out. Now, it took me a while to recognize how many, struggles I had, right? My abandonment issues, my insecurities. When she goes silent, and if anyone knows Joy, she's a quiet person. When she
Mhm.
goes silent, what does that mean? How am I being triggered? I had to address that within myself. So the very first thing that I do is check myself first, and
Mhm.
then I go and speak from a level of need that I know that she have both the capability to do and the capacity to do.
Mhm.
And I know that the capacity may not happen until a weekend, or the she may not have capacity for it until after the kids are asleep. So checking myself is one way that I know how to differentiate a insecure need attempting to be met,
Mhm.
that no one is responsible for, or a natural need within a relationship that needs to be met. It's just simply checking myself. So in closing, because we got to get up out of here. Miss Benita, you have anything quick to say? Because we got about less than a minute and a half.
Well, in the 33 years that I've been married, what I have learned is that my deal breakers of those first 5 years are very different from the deal breakers now.
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
only thing that stays the same is change.
Okay. Well, y'all two are on the program already. So, Joy, you got anything to add or anything?
No, I think
No.
that was pretty much it.
All right,
Pay attention
Ivor,
to
you
your
got some?
Hey, you
feelings.
know what? September is Life Insurance Awareness Month. You will be secure. Get yourself some life insurance.
All right. So next month, I really appreciate everybody. Benita, I appreciate you coming down, brother Ivor, Joy, coming in, and all the people that listen to us. I appreciate y'all being a part of the show. Next month is on parenthood. The first one is going during Wellness Wednesday. We're going to talk about the mother archetype. The second one we're going to look at this case thing. So I'm gonna have someone who is going through the court system attempting to claim, and I think Ivor can be on too. But and well, actually, that's during the brother to brother. I don't even know what we're doing for the second. And then the last, we're gonna wrap it up that month and just deal with what it looks like to be a parent and what it looks like in this day and age to be a parent. So this next month is parenting. So check us out on Friday where this is going to re-air. I'm a little behind, and I appreciate everybody telling me I'm behind, but I appreciate you guys listening. This is Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM. Peace.